When we talk about the cloud, we tend to think about the tech, right? The scalability, the flexibility, all that speed. But what if the real story, the one that sneaks up on you, is actually about hidden financial traps and, well, even global politics? Let's dive into the hidden price of the cloud.
This quote from a Cloud Pro on Reddit it hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It perfectly captures that all too common feeling of bill shock right after a big migration. It's a pain point so many businesses feel, and honestly, it's the first real warning sign that we've misunderstood something fundamental about how the cloud actually works.
So in this explainer, we're going to follow that money. We're going to start with that hidden price tag, then dig into the big technical mistake that causes it. From there, we'll see how it leads to the strategic trap of vendor lock-in, and how this whole thing blows up into a global conversation about data sovereignty. And don't worry, we'll finish up by looking at how you can build a way out.
Okay, let's start right at the beginning. That shocking bill that lands on your desk. It turns out those super low advertised prices for storage and compute, they're really just the tip of a very, and I mean very, expensive iceberg. So where's all this extra cost coming from? Well, it's kind of everywhere. You've got resources you spun up for a test and just forgot about. You've got services that scale in ways you never saw coming. And of course, there's the long-term cost of vendor lock-in. But one of the biggest, sneakiest culprits of all is data transfer fees, specifically something called egress.
Data egress is basically the fee you pay to move your data out of the cloud. Now, the providers make it super cheap, often totally free, to move all your data in. But the second you want to send that data back out to your users, or maybe to another region, or heaven forbid another provider, you got to pay up. It's a one-way street, and the money's only flowing in their direction.
And here's the really nasty part. These costs, they don't scale in a nice, predictable, straight line. As your business grows, you're adding users, you're shipping new features, you're expanding across the globe, your egress costs can just suddenly explode. It's this compounding growth effect that catches everyone by surprise.
And check this out. In one real-world case, a company grew its user base by 10 times, which is fantastic news, right? But their egress costs shot up 15 times. A little $400 a month line item suddenly ballooned to over $6,000 a month. Your success is literally making you bleed money.
And just look at how brutal these fees can be, depending on what you do. For a small software company, we're talking maybe 15 to 25% of your total cloud bill. But if you're a streaming service, it can be over half, sometimes up to 70% of your entire bill. Just think about that. At that point, you're paying more to move your data than you are to actually store it or do anything with it. It's wild.
So why? Why do these costs spiral so completely out of control? Well, the root cause is usually a simple but really profound strategic mistake. It's called the lift and shift trap.
Just look at this comparison. On the left, you've got the old-school data center mindset. You buy huge servers to handle your busiest day of the year. On the right, you have the cloud-native mindset, which is all about flexibility, auto-scaling, and using services, not just servers. Lift and shift is when you take that mindset on the left and just plop it down into the cloud on the right without changing a thing. You're treating this incredible platform like it's just a simple hosting service, and that, as we're seeing, is the most expensive way to use it.
And hey, it's a huge mental shift. The same engineer from our opening quote says it best right here. Success in the cloud literally meant unlearning old habits. You just can't play by the old rules on this new field and expect to win.
And this is where the problem gets bigger. That lift and shift mistake, combined with those insane egress fees, it creates a much more serious strategic risk: vendor lock-in. This isn't just about your budget anymore, it's about your freedom.
Vendor lock-in is pretty much what it sounds like. You become so dependent on one company that leaving is just impossibly difficult and expensive. And those high egress fees we talked about, they're basically the financial bars on the cage punishing you for even thinking about moving your data somewhere else.
And that trap gets deeper and deeper the more you use a provider's special proprietary services. Their unique databases, their fancy AI tools, all that stuff. They're convenient, for sure, but every single one you adopt ties you tighter and tighter to their ecosystem. It makes a future move not just costly, but a complete technical nightmare.
Okay, so we've gone from a surprise bill to a corporate strategy problem to vendor lock-in. But believe it or not, the stakes are about to get even higher. Now entire nations are looking at this landscape and seeing a threat to their own control, to their sovereignty.
This is the core idea of data sovereignty. It's the principle that your data is subject to the laws of the country where it's collected. But that leads to a massive question. What happens when a German citizen's data is sitting on a server in Virginia, owned by an American company that has to follow American laws? Who's really in control of that data?
And listen, this is not just some academic debate. This is happening right now. The European Commission, for instance, is actively building a formal framework for what they call cloud sovereignty. They are making it official policy to make sure Europe's digital future stays under European control.
And their goals, laid out right here, are crystal clear. They want strategic control over their digital world, sovereignty over their data and AI, a resilient tech supply chain, and, here's the kicker, technological independence to avoid the exact same vendor lock-in we were just talking about. See how it all connects?
And if you want to see what they think is most important, just look at how they've weighted their priorities. Supply chain sovereignty, controlling the actual hardware and software, comes out on top. They get that real independence starts with owning the building blocks.
So all of this brings us to the final, really practical question. In a world with hidden costs, vendor lock-in, and now even governments getting involved, just hoping for the best is not a strategy. You absolutely need a way out.
And a real exit strategy isn't just some vague idea. It has to be a concrete plan. You've got to define exactly what would make you pull the trigger, understand the nitty-gritty technical work it would take, plan for the people you'd need, and, this is the most important part, you have to test it. It's like a fire drill for your entire digital infrastructure.
So, we end up right back where we started, but with a much, much deeper question. We began with a surprise bill, just a simple financial headache. But as we've seen, that bill is really just a symptom of a much bigger issue. It takes us from a tactical mistake to a strategic dependency and ultimately to a fundamental question of control. So you have to take a hard look at your own cloud strategy and ask yourself, is it being built for freedom or is it slowly, quietly being built for dependence?